The 1936 Native Trust and Land Act, expanding land dispossession. A father plows his land at sunrise, watching his children play nearby. By nightfall, government officials arrive with orders. He must leave. His land is no longer his. The home he built will be demolished, and his family forced into overcrowded reserves. This was the reality of the 1936 Native Trust and Land Act. In 1936, the South African government introduced the Native Trust and Land Act, further tightening land control laws that had already devastated black communities since the 1913 Natives Land Act. This new law not only reinforced land dispossession, but also attempted to justify racial segregation by increasing land allocations for black people, while still keeping the vast majority of land in white hands. The act was signed into law by Prime Minister J.B.M. Hertzog of the United Party. But what exactly did this act do? And how did it shape the future of land ownership in South Africa? The 1936 Native Trust and Land Act was framed as a so-called solution to land shortages caused by the 1913 Natives Land Act. However, instead of genuinely addressing land inequalities, the act entrenched further segregation and economic hardship for black South Africans. Key provisions of the law included increasing the land allocated to black ownership from 7% to 13% of South Africa's total land area, but still leaving 87% in white control. Establishing the South African Native Trust, SANT, to buy land for black South Africans, though land transfers were slow and highly restrictive, prohibiting black South Africans from purchasing land outside the designated native reserves, giving the government power to forcibly relocate black people from white areas to these designated reserves. Despite claims that the act was a reform, it reinforced racial land segregation, ensuring that black South Africans remained landless and economically dependent on white landowners. The Native Trust and Land Act had a devastating impact on black South Africans. Thousands of black families were forcibly removed from their land and relocated to overcrowded reserves with poor infrastructure and limited resources. With limited access to arable land, black farmers struggled to sustain themselves, leading to increased poverty and reliance on white-owned commercial farms for employment. The law formalized land segregation, paving the way for future apartheid-era land laws like the 1950 Group Areas Act. Despite these injustices, black South Africans resisted. Political movements and rural community protests fought against forced removals and land dispossession, laying the groundwork for future land rights campaigns. While the 1936 Native Trust and Land Act was eventually repealed, its consequences still shape land ownership patterns in South Africa today. The country continues to grapple with land reform and restitution, highlighting the long-lasting effects of colonial and apartheid-era land policies. Understanding these historical injustices is crucial to addressing today's land reform challenges. If you found this video insightful, hit the like button, subscribe for more historical breakdowns, and share your thoughts in the comments. What other apartheid-era laws would you like us to cover next?